Hello and welcome to Why We Endure, the show where ordinary people do extraordinary things and we ask them the question that matters, which is why. I'm your host, Chester Allen, and today with me I'm joined by Hector Berry. Welcome, Hector.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, mate. Good to chat to you again. How's things been? What have you been up to?
Oh, just sort of living the London life. We're in a bit of a heat wave at the moment, so being humbled by the heat when I'm trying to run at the moment. So it's become less frequent than it usually is. But no, life's good. No complaints here.
Of that. And so I suppose just as a quick bit of background for whoever's listening to this and all the listeners, Hector's been a big part of the Hunchman Trust, which is the charity that I co-founded with the Smith brothers and a couple others as well. You did the double, didn't you? Did you do the first one or the second one? I can't remember.
I did the second one, yeah.
You did the second one,
Last
yeah.
summer.
So what is that, just for people that don't know?
Yeah, so the Hunchman Double, as we call it, is a double marathon. It's 2 marathons in 2 days. So you run the first marathon, and we start in Surrey in England and run to London, and then you stay the night, and then you run back to Surrey the next day with a big group of people. And it's growing every year. When I did it last year, there was about 60 people, and I think this year coming, it's going to be 100 plus. And I believe the first year was about 25, so it's doubling every year pretty much.
Yeah. It's those statistics are correct, and it was how did you find it? Actually, how did you find it? Like, unfiltered.
Yeah, do you know what? It sounds almost cringe to say it because it's like a running thing, but it was probably the best weekend of the year for me. It was a combination of like, I feel like with the Hunchman, like the main thing that they go for is like, all right, basically you're turning pain into purpose, and it's just a shit ton of people all going through an immense amount of pain together, and the feeling gives you at the end is like, yeah, like nothing else. And then it's like you're slamming beers with 50 people who you only met a few months before. So it's a cool experience, but it was painful and very uncomfortable. That's what it was all about. That was the aim of it, really. Met a lot of new mates and had a great time.
I love that. By the way, we don't condone like booze drinking, but please drink responsibly.
Yeah, of course, always responsibly.
Nice, I love it. So mate, so obviously involved with the Hunchman, I know you personally, obviously, and you've done some very interesting things since the Hunchman Double. But let's take a step back. So give us a bit of background on yourself. Like, who are you? What's your sort of day to day, and how do you fit in all of this ridiculous training around your lifestyle and work?
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a fortunate position at the moment. I about 9 months ago started my own company, and which means I'm on a fairly flexible sort of schedule at the moment, which means I can squeeze in my running kind of when I need to. But yeah, what's my background? I guess I got into running probably would have been about 3 years ago. That was off the back of too many rugby injuries. Was no sort of big thing rugby player. Just enjoyed it, played socially.
Good man.
But for me, that was a huge outlet. And I feel like for a lot of blokes, you need that something sport-wise to keep you ticking over and not go too mental. So when I couldn't play rugby anymore, I didn't really know what to do because I didn't have any huge passions for different sports. So then I got into, I basically wanted to, I didn't even really I didn't enjoy running at all. I actually hated it. I did that counter in lockdown. And
what position did you play when you were a rugby player? Sorry, just to interject.
Yeah, well, listeners, if you see me, you know there's only one position I play because I'm a fairly small bloke. I'm a scrum half, or was a scrum half.
Yeah. So you're used to running then?
Yeah, I could just go from ruck to ruck basically. That was me. But no, when I basically couldn't play rugby anymore, I just decided I needed an outlet, and I hated running, but I decided to set myself a challenge. It was part of my uni dissertation actually. I wanted to see if an untrained runner, or completely someone new to running, could run 100k. So I basically set myself that challenge, and I did that. I think about 4 months after I started running. Um,
4 months.
yeah, it wasn't recommended, and it wasn't. Yeah, it was the most unenjoyable but enjoyable day of my life.
Type 2 fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. I did it very slowly and walked a lot of it. But yeah, that got me into it, and from that point on, I like the feeling I got from completing something I sort of set out to do, um, was like nothing I've ever experienced before. So I knew that running was something I could sort of like harness that emotion and have that outlet, and yeah, it kind of went from there. I mean, it was a little bit of a had peaks and troughs in terms of my running. Like I did stop for a while after that just because I was horrendously injured, because I was so untrained. But then it's sort of come into this, like, consistency now where if I don't run, I'll just go a bit crazy.
Mm. No, I love that. And so tell us about the business, mate. What you're doing and what you're launching.
Yeah, so yeah, started a basically it's a lifestyle and activewear brand, um, where by I basically my thing is I guess linked with the hunt. We're partnered with the Huntsman Trust actually, as you know, and my thing is I want to raise awareness and try and break the stigma around talking about your mental health. And for me personally, sport and movement is the main way you can do that, and the easiest and most accessible way you can do that. Where a lot of people find therapy intimidating, going for a run or walking or playing golf, being side by side with your mate, it's a really easy outlet to speak about your mental health. So that was kind of the forefront. That's why I had the idea of starting something. And then the clothing is kind of like, I guess, the forefront of that, something that can represent it. People can wear it and feel proud that they're happy and able to speak about mental health. And others who will see the brand, the idea is that other people who will see the brand knocking about will know that someone's part of that community and will feel comfortable to go up to them and have a chat if someone needs. So yeah, we did a bit of knitwear, stuff that I'm wearing now actually. Of course, always repping the
Present.
brands. We're going into doing running. We're doing a running collection coming out in summer, which would be really cool. And we're doing some Huntsman limited edition stuff as well, which would be great.
Hell yeah. Awesome, mate. I absolutely love that, and we'll link all your socials and everything to the business in the show notes. What's the name of it, just so people are aware?
So we're called Mora, and the sort of word Mora, it's Morra. The word Mora has come from the word tomorrow. The idea being that you're building a better tomorrow every day, day on day. You're trying to plus 1% yourself every day.
Good man. I love that. I hope that resonates with people as well. And so maybe just to come back a little bit as well. So I'm just gonna I suppose blueprint your journey so far. So you've gone from fair to say like a social rugby setting, scrum half. Who did you play for at, by the way? What was the company? What was the team?
I played at uni, Exeter Uni.
You played at uni, right? So you went Exeter Uni, scrum half, and then you decided, okay, I'm gonna train for 4 months. By the sounds of it, not quite like enough training and body preparedness went into it. Do 100k, which you're probably part of a cohort there of maybe 0.02% of the planet that have done 100k in one go, especially with that little amount of training. And then you were injured. What were your injuries after the 100k?
I had IT band issues, basically nothing too dramatic, but just enough to stop me from running, basically. So anyone who's had ITB syndrome will know that the pain you get in the outside of your knee is yeah, it restricts you big time. So I had that ongoing for about 4 months after the event, so I just couldn't really run at all. But yeah.
And you need your knees for running, don't you? So that's a bit of a
I mean, I'm no David Goggins. He'd think I'm pathetic, but yeah.
yeah, maybe a source of like motivation, but maybe not inspiration. But there you
Yeah.
go. And so with the break, and then obviously trying to sort your ITB or IT band out, what sort of motivated you to do? Was the double hunchman the next thing, or was there something
Yes.
else in between?
So I met Charlie Smith, obviously a co-founder of the Huntsman Trust. He was at the end of my 100k, just completely randomly. I think it's just because he loves the pub. He was just in the same pub where I finished. We had mutual friends, but he was there in the end, and I didn't actually speak to him that night, but we got connected, and he reached out to me and just asked if I wanted to get involved in a challenge he was putting on, which is the double marathon. And I sort of I feel like I need like from that point on I needed like my next challenge to give me a reason to keep training. I feel like I always need like a finish line with my training. I was like, yeah, sign me up straight away. Sounds amazing. And then that was the next thing I did, which I believe would have been probably about a year after the 100K, maybe even a bit
So
more.
not that long. But the way that you said you didn't run for ages, I thought you were out for like a couple of years plus. After 100K, mate, that's a lot of stress on the body. That's
Yeah,
not too bad. That's pretty good.
no, so yeah, that was a good little. I had nice had a target to sort of do a bit of rehab and get back into it, which is great because I think you could very easily, without having a goal in mind, drop off, and I think that would have been, yeah, I wouldn't have been where I am now without that. So, yeah, very grateful to have been able to have done that double because it actually put me in a position where it kind of kicked on my running. Like I, managed to do that. It was bloody difficult, but I just love the process of it, love the training, love the social aspects of it as well. Meeting new people, running with people. I think that's something which people when you start running, I think struggle to run with other people because they think that they're either going to be holding you back, they're not quick enough, or they're just embarrassed. And something that I learned very quickly is that running with people is the best thing you can do. It makes it so much easier, and you have so many other people who are in exactly the same situation as you, whether you're just starting out to run or you're getting into it a bit more, or you're an advanced runner. There's always going to be someone you can relate with. Running with someone was like it was an amazing thing for me because I'd never run with other people before. I'd always been like, no, I'm gonna do it myself because I've got my own pace, sort of thing. Yeah, I'd definitely advise running with
It's
other people for sure.
it's just more fun, isn't it? Like you get up for it, and then also you hold yourself accountable because you're like, oh, I'm running with Hector today. Like I can't let him down. You're staring at your trainers for half an hour before you lace up, and you're like, I really don't fancy it, but my mate's already at the park, so I've got to get down there,
Exactly. Yeah.
ASAP. So, no, I think that's very accurate, and so like you've been through hell so far. We're just going through sort of your sort of certification to an ultimate nut job here. So you've done your 100K, you've done your double. What did you do next?
What did I do next after that? I Do you know what? So that would have been last summer. So I think yeah, the next thing I would have done was Project 259, I
Hmm.
believe. Yeah,
Tell us some
which
more about
was
that.
so it was a group of us. There was five of us hunchmen
Hmm.
who have all done the double. I think there was one of the guys, Adam Lomax, who did the double the first year, and then there was four of us who did it, or three of us who did the second year, and then plus Charlie. Um, and yeah, so Charlie basically just gave me a call one day in I think October last year, and was just like, "Do you think you can do a sub 3 hour marathon?" And I was like, "What sort of stupid question is that? Obviously not." He was like, "No, no, no." He was like, "No, no, like, no, now, but like we'll give you a bit of time to train." He was like, "But I've got an idea of getting X amount of hunchmen together and seeing if we can all train together and hit this sort of milestone of doing a marathon in under 3 hours, which like is just bonkers." I would just never have. I never even thought about. I've never done a marathon. Well, I've never done a marathon for like time for speed. For
Gonna
like,
have to correct you on that.
but I'd never done a marathon to be like, I want to do it in this amount of time. It was like, it was just it came in a different sort of setting, a different race distance. And I've sort of got that brain now where I can't really bring myself to say no to a challenge. Um, so I was there like, yeah, sign me up. I think we had about 6 months to train, maybe just under. And yeah, so we basically trained for the London Reverse Marathon, which is essentially you do the London Marathon backwards at midnight the night before. So we obviously started at Buckingham Palace and worked our way out to sort of East London, Greenwich way, and we did that in the middle of the night. So yeah, that was the next challenge, which was fairly recently. That was in April this year, so just last month.
Blimey, that is ridiculous. So there's a couple of things that I want to unpack them, and I think we will get into that definitely. But I'm going to come back actually to the 100k and the Hunchman, and probably actually also the Project 259. So
Yeah,
with all of these challenges and with all of the, because it's intrinsic motivation, right? Because there's no medal really. Last year at the Hunchman there was a medal, but you didn't do it for that. The 100k you just did off your own back, and then Project 259 is also just, there's no real extrinsic award. So
no,
where does your, hey,
we finished at a bus station in the middle of Greenwich. Just the
yeah,
five of us.
not the most glorious finish line.
You're like, right,
So
boys, we got a line bike then.
pub.
Yeah,
So I suppose where I'm going with that is, what's the motivation? Like, where does it come from, and how do you tap into that? The dark moments, the pain cave. What are you tapping into to pull yourself out of ultimately just pain and desperation to stop?
yeah, yeah. Great question. I mean, it is a funny one, and everyone has their why. I think it's always fairly deeply personal. I think, and for me, it's come from a combination of things. I had always been from I guess my teen years. I'd always struggled with anxiety, um, which was manageable throughout my time at school, and then at uni, I kind of turned to booze to kind of suppress that. I wouldn't go as far
Mm.
to say I was an alcoholic. I mean, although most doctors would probably classify that, I think as most uni students are, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I would always find myself kind of like being like super anxious during the day, and I'd get to the evening and be like, "Oh, I can't wait to have a beer because I know that I'm going to feel better." And for me, like I basically turned to booze when I was at uni to fix my anxiety. And it got to a stage in, I think it was lockdown in COVID, where my anxiety just snowballed, and it just became like crippling to the point where I couldn't really do much. I couldn't eat. I lost about 20 kilos in the space of about 3 months. And yeah, I was just in a world of bother, and I didn't get out of it really until 2023, I want to say, which is when I first started running. I never really had something that would take the edge off my anxiety. But I think what I'm trying to say is those days where I couldn't eat and the days that I couldn't get out of bed because my anxiety was too bad. I look back at those when I'm running, or when I'm deciding, oh, I don't want to run because I feel a bit shit today. I'll think back to those points that I was going through and be like, I used to wish for normal anxieties. I used to wish for like funny things like financial issues and like whatever it may be, but just on the basis that my anxieties were so like irrational at the time and so crippling that I'd be so afraid of like um, eating like a regular like just food like broccoli or chicken or something like that, and they're so irrational. And now I'm like, oh, then I was like, oh, I wish I had that sort of anxiety or in different anxiety in the future. But no, I look back and I have reference points where I should look back on and be like, I was like on my breaking point back then. And when I'm running, I just think back to that and be like, the pain I'm in now is nothing compared to what I was going through then. And that just pushes me on. That keeps me ticking over. I think with all the runs that I do, I find reference points within them. So the 100k, I got to about 50k in and I could hardly like walk. My knee was in so much pain. I knew I was only 50% of the way there. And I just imagined crossing the finish line for the next, what would have been about 12 hours. Um, and when I did cross that finish line, the biggest outpour of emotion I've ever had in my entire life. And yeah, it's great because I can look back on them. If I'm having a shit day, if my anxiety's, back up, then I'll just look back and reference it and I'll be like, right, and I'll go for a run. And running for me, like, seems to cure most of it at the moment. It's a really, really amazing coping mechanism for me, which I never discovered, and I wish I discovered running earlier, to be honest.
That's amazing, mate, and thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. It's a story that I think lots of people, so many people struggle with anxiety. Now, I'm one as well. Anxiety, depression, PTSD, this sort of very, very similar sort of signatures. But were you able to, and if you're comfortable talking about it, were you able to figure out the source of the anxiety initially, or how it actually originally bubbled up and came to be?
I don't really know how exactly it came about. I think anxiety can come. It can either be genetic or brought on from an experience you've gone through. I think for me it was a combination. I've got family members who also struggle with it, um, but I had an accident when I was traveling, and I think I definitely had a touch of anxiety before. As I mentioned, I had a bit at school. I've got ADHD and a bit of OCD as well, and that definitely was there before. But then I had this accident, and as you mentioned, like I think I had pretty bad PTSD from that. I was in hospital in Bolivia for a few weeks. I had a pneumothorax and I had a head injury, and I just was in a pretty bad way that week. And just off the back of that, my anxiety kind of started to slowly get worse and worse, uh, to the point where I was basically having panic attack most days. Um,
That's not fun. That is not fun.
No, not fun. And for me, and I don't know, for me, I just felt very alone because when I was having these panic attacks, my brain would innately blame it on something else. So when I spoke about not being able to eat food, it wasn't from like a weight perspective. It was because I thought that the food was making me feel these ways. I
Mm.
thought the food was bringing on this anxiety. There was something in the food that was making me ill, essentially. Um, and I had a huge health anxiety around that. So I would basically just not eat food because of that reason, which of course is completely irrational and not the case. But I didn't. But when your brain's in that state, you can't figure that out. So yeah, I didn't really know what to do in that stage. But yeah, I think the anxiety came from a combination of PTSD and um, and just it being innately there. To be honest with you.
Mate, that sounds like a seriously rough time in Bolivia and the accident. How's the noggin now? Are you sort of fully recovered from all of that, and now you sort of isolated the anxiety, and that's what we're coping with at the moment, or is there still sort of, the old flashback from every now and then?
No, I think that I mean it's I had a load of therapy years
Nice, good
afterwards.
man.
I don't really know what it was, but which was amazing. Absolutely love my therapist a bit. She's like a best mate now.
Yeah, same.
It's so cool because therapy worlds are like, oh, I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? That's ridiculous. And then you do it and you're like, this is quite nice. Sort of look forward to it, and I still see her now every now and then. But yeah, it's anxiety is one of those things. It's never going to go away. Um, it's about learning to sort of manage it and figure out coping mechanisms. And yeah, exercise, running, socializing is does that for me.
And so, mate, with the food element, I'm quite interested in this, and again, I really appreciate you opening up there because that's not an easy thing to do. But coming with now knowing your relationship with food, coming forward, how is your relationship with food now, and then also how do you fuel yourself efficiently for these challenges? Because if you still struggle with it, then that's going to be very difficult to sustain through these long periods on the tarmac and pounding
Yeah.
the pavement, and you're going to bonk out before the end. So was that? Do you think that was playing on the back of your mind during the sort of 100K initially, or were you over
Um,
that by then?
I was pretty much over that type of anxiety around the food that I had. I have a different issue with food now, um, which is not anxiety related, but I've got something called vestibular migraines, and that had came on. I had another head injury a couple of years after that one in Bolivia, and there's no by process of elimination, the docs have decided that I've got these vestibular migraines, which essentially it's not a migraine like the classic migraine when you get big headache around your head and your eyes hurt and all that. Um, I get vertigo. So certain foods will trigger a sort of vertigo attack, if that makes sense. And I'm still on the journey figuring out what food exactly does trigger it. So I will probably a few days a week have days where I'm, yeah, heavily sort of brain fog, very dizzy, off balance. And I think definitely for sure it's a mixture of potentially the food triggering it and anxiety. So stress and anxiety bring it on as well. Food's just one element that can trigger it. So there's a bit of a combination of things, and I definitely think for me being a fairly anxious person, generally anyway, it's hard for me to pinpoint what exactly it is. So fueling has been a major issue for me. I'm seeing a dietitian at the moment, a nutritionist, and they asked me what I did, how I fueled for these challenges, and I sort of told them my daily sort of calorie intake, and they were just they're like, there's no way you can run that sort of distance, and that's my weekly mileage on the fuel that I was having. But for me, I was just like, I'd rather eat less and not be dizzy, if that makes sense.
100%, hundred
But for
percent.
sure,
So go on. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say for sure. I think it's the food's one aspect, but the dizziness is. I think a lot of it's triggered by anxiety. That is a symptom of anxiety, being a bit lightheaded and dizzy. So I think the two of them, they work they work together to really piss me off.
So it's you against the symptoms, which is
Yeah,
quite fun, and it's a challenge in itself, right? And so you've got the physical element, the mental element. So I suppose in terms of maybe isolating the moment, let's say, or the point at which you were like, right, I need to just do this, because anxiety like can be crippling. You
hmm
know, like you said, you lost 20 kg. Like that is a lot of weight to lose just because of a relationship with food. So and then being able to somehow turn a corner and then go and run 100k, a double marathon, and then Project 259. So like what was the moment? Because there must have been a sort of a point in time where you were like, I can't continue on this path, I need to go this way. What was it?
yeah. I think I do think there's been a like there was definitely a moment. I think it's happened a couple times to me. The sort of main moment where I was like, it can't go on like this was probably um, where my vertigo migraine symptoms got so bad. This was would have been after the 100K, um, after I'd had that time out of running with my IT ban issues. I was getting to the point where probably 4 or 5 days a week I was completely bedbound, with a combination of just dizziness from the migraine stuff and crippling anxiety, um, coming potentially from the symptoms being so frustrated with being dizzy all the time, but also with I think not when I couldn't run or do exercise, that just brings more anxiety anyway. So there was a point there where I was like being a bit lazy with my training, not doing much rehab, and I wasn't going to the gym. And I was like, I just can't continue. There's just no way to live like this. It's unsustainable and frankly just unenjoyable. And so I remember lying in bed one day, being like, "You've done this amazing challenge," and remembering that I felt great when I was training all the time. Thinking, "Oh, there's definitely a relationship between not exercising and your anxiety being worse." And so I remember thinking that and going, "Right, I need to do something to, as I said to you earlier, like having that finishing line, something to work towards, which was so important." And like, it came fairly recently after that, where Charlie reached out and offered for me to do this double marathon, and it was like kind of perfect timing. And that was kind of the point where I was like, right, I'm going to kick on, and I did that, and I still trained fairly like casually, which is why I say I've got two moments. And then when the Project 259 rolled round, that's when I was like, right, like the anxiety's better when I was doing that. And then I was like, right, now I want to actually kick on and actually be a good runner. Like I ran, I obviously could run a good distance. Doing two marathons back to back is like no easy feat, but I just felt like I wanted to do more. And what I've noticed now is I'm trying to run 5 or 6 days a week at the moment. And if I find myself not running, if I have one day of not running, I will notice my anxiety going up or me being a bit dizzier. So, um, like today, for example, I felt a bit dizzy. Um, and so I took myself off my lunch break and did a run, and it just is amazing. Like I felt like a changed man for the afternoon compared to the morning where I just couldn't concentrate, brain fog, I was dizzy. Went off a run and I came back and felt fine. But yeah, it was at probably Project 259 where I decided that I was going to properly kick on and train seriously, which also meant fueling more seriously. So that's when I started seeing the dietitian as well.
That's it's such a it's so weird how it works out like that, isn't it? And if you when you reflect on your journey to now, the distance that you've covered, not just in terms of in the trainers, but in terms of mental growth as well. That's almost the reason why you want to keep doing these challenges. Is okay, I'm now here from where I was. I was almost at rock bottom. Lying in my bed, losing 20 kg, and now I'm here where I've got mechanisms in place. I can cure myself if I'm feeling pretty crap. And that's such a rewarding journey, and no one sees that, and no one really knows about it unless they ask. And so like that's for you, that is just for you. So people will see, there's a running boom at the moment, and people are seeing so many people buying running trainers, and everyone's posting on their Strava, and there's this whole sort of like, there's kind of a piss take environment about like, oh, I'm just into running, like CBD oil, or all of this sort of stuff, which is great fun, and I love that, and I think that should continue because it does make fun out of it. But deep down, it's got such a deeper meaning for everyone, and well, not everyone, but a lot of people, and I think that's really important. So with your fueling now, and you're saying that you're running 5 to 6 times a week, like talk me through your training program and like how that works, because running 5, 6 times a week, like you obviously built up to that, but how much like flexibility work are you doing, proprioception, like balance, like prehab, like how does that all fit in, and how the hell do you have time whilst you're starting a business?
Yeah, I have to say it's been my stress levels have slightly gone up.
So that's the
But
reason for more running, is it?
yeah, it is a bit of an inverse. It's a horrible relationship that they've got together. But it's something that I could never, like my dad always says, like you need to slow. Like I always be like, oh, I'm absolutely knackered or whatever, and he's like, it's because you're running and working X amount of hours a day. Like it's not sustainable. He's probably right, and he's far more sensible than I am. But I can't stop. I love running. It's the best. And as I said, it basically is it's a natural remedy for me to cure anxiety. But yeah, it's so difficult to juggle. I do find myself having days where I do feel like I'm burning out a bit. And I think naturally it's good to recognize that and sometimes give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back and be like, no, you're doing good. Like you can relax a bit. Maybe take your foot off the pedal for a little bit, but if I do, I feel guilty. But yeah, it's difficult. I've tried to set myself. I work normal working hours as if I was in a normal corporate job, and then I'll just try and squeeze running in and around it. So I'll run early morning or in the evening, and sometimes at lunch. But I like doing morning or evening, to be honest. And I often run with people, as I say. So like I get my social time with mates in the evening through running with them. So we do every Monday in Battersea Park. We do Never Miss a Monday Run Club, which is another Hunchman running event that we do. It's or not event, rather, just a run club. And for me, you go and you see, 30 people every Monday, have a chat, and that's a nice little outlet. That's an unwind for me. I'm away from my desk, and I can just go and chat, and there's a lot of people there who are like-minded, who can chat about if they've had a shitty week or if they had a great week. It doesn't have to be good or bad. My Alexa telling me it's time for bed.
Oh no, I've kept you too long. I'm sorry. You need to do your wind down.
It's not even 9 o'clock. I need to. um,
Oh, well, wait, like, I love that, and I was just thinking, like, I personally I've burnt out 3 times, and it's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It sucks. It really, really sucks, and it takes a long, long time. I'm talking 6 months to recover mentally, physically, and emotionally. So be conscious of that, genuinely as just a friend. But also, what I wanted to ask and I suppose understand as well is with all this running, you're a young man, you're a fit man, and your body is coping at the moment. How are you making sure that your joints, your muscles, everything's staying nimble and mobile enough for you to perform? Do you do have you got like a stretching routine? Do you do yoga, or is that like another remedy that helps with the anxiety as well, like breath work, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I try and go to the gym maybe like 5 days a week at the moment. And within that, I will incorporate doing like leg exercises.
Wait,
Like
what? Hang on.
one,
You're running 5 or 6 times a week, and then you go into the gym 5 or 6 times a week.
yeah. Well,
What?
trying to. Um,
Jesus,
but
man.
I mean, like as I said, like I get such joy off it. I always gym with I gym with one of my mates, Jake. Every morning, we go before work every day, and for me that's like a bit of a nice. We'll go and gym and hit the sauna, and it's like a nice like we'll go and just lock in the gym. Well, I'm not a morning person at all. I will go there and we'll work out together in silence. We'll put a jam on in Spotify, and then we'll chat when we get to the sauna. And then I'll run in the evenings. Is normally the program, which yeah is like obviously tiring physically and mentally. Because I don't, I rarely till I get to the weekend have a night where I can sit and just chill out and watch a movie. But for me, like the benefits that I get, it's worth it for me. I'm not saying this is something I'd recommend because it does take a huge toll on you, as much mentally as I said. Um, but yeah, I do incorporate into my gym schedules in the morning. I'll try and do like a leg S&C day, um, once a week, which as I've discovered, is not enough because I'm fighting a similar ITB issue at the moment. So that's kind of affected me. But I try and stretch. I try and stretch every day. I definitely stretch before every run, like because otherwise I'll just have issues. I'm not one of those freaks who can just go out cold and be fine. If I run without having stretched, I will know immediately. So I'll stretch every time.
They're not freaks. They're fools in the short term. Warm up is something that should never be sniffed at, and I'm so happy that you said that because not enough people do that. So if you're listening and you don't warm up or stretch beforehand, please do. I don't want more injuries. But mate, so I am conscious of time, because it is late in the evening for you. It's early in the morning for me. But what I wanted to cover just real quick is you've done your Project 259. I keep saying that wrong, don't I? It's 259. Is it, or is it
Yeah,
259? Does it matter? What sounds better?
it's the same thing, I guess. Uh,
So what's next? What's beyond this finish line, and what are you doing now, or is it just maintenance?
at the moment, it's kind of maintenance. It's getting my legs. After Project 259. I did a marathon the weekend after, with a mate. We I ended up doing, which was not really planned, but I ended up sort of setting myself a bit of a challenge. Maybe I was being a bit of a cock and slightly overconfident, but I set myself a challenge of doing a sub 3:30 marathon, having had 10 pints the night before. Um, I like this.
different different side of endurance that.
Yeah, which was like I was like yeah, it was basically giving me a big old fuck you to my liver, which was not recommended. But I said that, and I was doing that with a mate, and basically did that 7 days after Project 259, and yeah, on a hangover, and my legs not remotely recovered. That was a stretch. We managed to do it. I did it in 3:22 in the end,
Nice.
but that was almost worse than 2:59.
Yeah.
I waited about 5 minutes in the Portaloo, which was, yeah, which was very unenjoyable, may I say.
Did you pause the Garmin and the Strava, or was that running whilst you're in the Portaloo?
No, no, it was all going. It was all going.
And you still did a 322.
Still managed to squeeze a 3:22. And I was pacing a mate, and I was like, oh, I need to stop, but I'll try and catch up with you. and so I had to try and drop some silly splits to catch up with him. It took me about 10k to catch back up with him. But yeah, it
Oh,
was
just
actually
10K.
thoroughly unenjoyable. We were doing it in Milton Keynes, which actually
Oh,
surprised me.
really?
Most people make that face at me, but it was not bad at all. I wouldn't do it again. Don't get me wrong. Um, but considering it was all right. So big up Milton Keynes to those who live there.
Wow, that's a first. I've never ever heard that before. But there you go. Yeah, I'm open to it. I'll go back. I need to explore the indoor skydiving center there, I think. But
Yeah,
oh mate, that's ridiculous because also the sort of minimal, even for athletes after running a marathon, the sort of unless you're doing like ultra marathons back to back or something stupid like that, running across America like Will Gouge or something like that. But the recommended recovery time is somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks after a marathon, and you're just doing it after a week, after 10 pints, probably not a very good night's sleep. So I mean that's just that is classic. That is right there. That is
yeah,
just pure greed.
yeah. It wasn't sensible, but I love it. I love pushing myself and my body and my mind to the limits. It makes me feel like obviously bad in the moment, but that's when you go through such a prolonged stage of being uncomfortable, you kind of can get comfortable with it. And when you come out the end, you feel the rewards of it. And for me, that's an extremely cool thing to be able to do. It's like I always say when people always be like, "Oh, you're a nut job. You always run every day and you go to the gym every day." And not to sound too cringe or anything, but for me, like being able to exercise is such a huge privilege. There's so many people who can't do that, and I'm immensely grateful that I can wake up every morning and know that I'm able to, better myself physically and mentally with whatever it is that I'm doing, whether it's running or going to the gym or whatever it is. Yeah, it's really cool for me.
Mate, that I couldn't agree more with that. That's a massive part for me as well. I'm eternally grateful. I've tried to set themes every challenge that I do. So it's not about me, it's about the theme. It's about, just enjoying the fact that you're there. Was the first Ironman for me, and then the second one was really gratitude.
Yeah,
And it's about being, able-bodied and just honouring that and loving that. It's just, yeah, like you say, it's such a pleasure, but you also get such a kick out of it because you see so much of an environment that no one else would see. Do you know what I mean? Because like you're running on like a towpath and so many people just drive in their car to get a place, but you're going on foot and you get to see so much more of the world and appreciate it. And you get that sort of sense of marvel and awe. And that, I think that really spurs you on. So I really love that, mate. I think that's awesome. So last two questions and then I'll let you go to bed. I'm quite curious because now you're where you are, you're a much wiser man than what you were before. You're very conscious of your own mental state, and you've got great mechanisms in place. You've got a fairly healthy relationship with exercise, borderlining on burnout, but that's okay. You'll discover that as well. What would be a message, or what would you say? So say you were like, let's say you were a ghost, and you're hovering above that boy that was in bed losing 20 kg, what would be the message that you would, or the bit of knowledge that you would give to younger Hector, and what would you say to help him along?
yeah. I mean, I think what I'd probably say is every morning when you wake up, you feel different to the day before. Some days you'll have 100% to give, some days 30%, some days 20%. Give everything you've got that day. So if you only got 40%, give all 40. And I think that is like, you can never be this highly motivated person every single day. So however you feel waking up, just make sure you do it one foot in front of the other and just get moving. Do it, be consistent with it, because consistency is more important than motivation. So yeah, I'd say that. Give everything you've got that day, however much that may be.
Hector, mate, it's been so great, and I think it's been extremely motivational, inspiring as well. And the consistency bit, motivation comes from movement, and if your movement's consistent, then you have consistent motivation, right? So that's the sort of the sort of scenario there, and I love that you're tapped into that. So, and thank you for being so candid. But I'm going to close with our why we endure closing tradition. So, with the 259 project, if you had a soundtrack to that challenge or a specific song, let's say, what would that song be and why?
Oh, what a question. Um, I would say Firework, Katy Perry. Because baby, I am a firework, you know? I felt like one when I was running. And then I watched the footage back and I looked like I was running with a nappy on, waddling up the streets of London.
I love that. I love that. That's awesome. Big up Katy Perry. But
Yeah.
no, but that's awesome. And so, what did you sort of think of that whilst you were in the challenge, or was it just sort of, yeah, that sort of summarizes that challenge quite nicely. So
I
that's
think
the
it's
soundtrack to it.
yeah, I think it summarizes it quite nicely, but I also quite like to, in times of pain, I quite like to find humor. So finding a song which is I find quite amusing, like it's not like the classic like lock in heavy drill, whatever it is. Um, don't get me wrong, I love that sometimes. I love like quite like an emotional song to drive me on, like Experience Ludovico Einaudi. Like that one's a great
Yes.
one for those who know. That
Yes.
I get locked in on that. But Firework for me, I think sums it up because it's just it was five clueless blokes running through the streets of London, not really, no idea what's going on. We got lost several times, um, and yeah, it was just we were all sort of popping off like a firework. We had a great time and we loved it, and it was a hell of an experience.
I love that. I love that. I love that so much, mate. And again, thank you so much for joining Why We Endure. And look, mate, I appreciate you, and I wish you all the best in whatever you're doing moving forward. So thank you very much for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I've loved every minute of it. It's been great, and yeah, we'll chat soon, I'm sure.